Good afternoon, I'm Helen Hughes. In tonight's news, a report on our grim road toll. 4 people have died on northern roads in the past 3 days. The latest fatality at Doylestown early this morning. 2 of the 4 fatalities have been hit-and-run accidents.
For all the news,
join us tonight
at 6.
The full board met this morning and around 1 p.m, with myself and League Manager Graham Hards present, welcomed us into the Sydney Premiership from next season.
It's my great pleasure to announce that Newcastle will be in the Sydney Winfield Premiership competition as from season 1988, and we wish them well and we congratulate them on that success.
It's been a long while in trying, I suppose, for some of us.
Well, it has been, Lee. I can remember something like, I suppose it's 10 years ago when you and Gary Leo and I think a fellow called Bruce Lovett came down to see me when I was the Manly secretary, so it hasn't been an easy task, and I must say I must admire the way you've stuck to it, because you finally won through, and you're now entering what I consider is the best rugby league competition in the world, and I think the people of Newcastle deserve it.
Ken, it's also good news to know that the New South Wales Board require Newcastle's domestic competition to stay affiliated with the Country Rugby League. That's another plus for us.
Yes, that will be a part of the agreement. The domestic competition in Newcastle will remain under the control of the Country Rugby League, that's correct.
Ken, I don't have to remind you about the great players we've produced in the Hunter Valley, the lower Hunter Valley, Churchill, Carlson, Lumsden, you name them, Trigg, Narvo, way back. You're expecting us to play a very big part, aren't you?
I reckon you fellas are going to be very hard to take it off once you win it up there, because Newcastle have produced some great players over the years, and I've always regarded Newcastle as one of our greatest strongholds of Australian Rugby League.
Well, we've produced some good players. It's now our task, I suppose, to go and produce a great club.
Well, I'm sure you'll do it. I'm very impressed, and so is the rest of the board, very impressed with the submission that's been made by the administrators from Newcastle. I think it's very much to their credit the way they've submitted the proposal, and I've got no doubt at all that you're going to be a successful club.
Task, I suppose, to go and produce a great club.
This afternoon's meeting of officials considered various aspects of the trade union movement's mounting campaign against cutbacks in compensation payments. When they emerged after an hour of discussion, a vote had been taken to back yesterday's call by the Trades Hall executive for a week of rolling bans and stoppages from midnight tonight. The officials also supported the calling of a mass rally on Thursday afternoon at the Broadmeadow Police Boys Club. The meeting was chaired by Trades Hall President Dennis Nichols.
The unions would take supportive action for the Labor Council campaign, and we would be convening a rally to take place at 1 o'clock on Thursday, and we'll be asking people to stop work and attend that rally.
Now, just what form will the stoppages take on Thursday for the rally at the Police Boys Club?
Well, it'll be up to the individual unions. That some people will be stopping work for the whole of the day or knocking off work to attend the rally. That'll be up to the individual unions and in some circumstances the individual factories, but we've put out the call for people to stop and attend the rally so we can bring it home to the government in the strongest possible terms of what the view of the combined trade union movement is on their current position.
Since the troupe began rehearsing in 1982, home has been Broadmeadow High School, but now the venue for the weekly practices has changed. The 164 Koalas will have just enough time to settle into the new premises at Lambton High School. before setting off in July on a 2.5-week musical tour of the United Kingdom.
There's a general feeling that because it is a regional band that it would be appropriate for the band to be located in different situations at different times. Lambton High facilities were available. They've been graciously made available to us by the principal, and the facilities here are first class. We're very pleased to be here. I don't know how long we'll be here, but we would be looking, I guess, in the next 3 or 4 years to moving on to another location so that the band can be more truly representative of the region as a whole.
And of course the band are now warming up for their big UK tour coming up.
It's been a great pleasure to be here this evening to hear them warming up. Yes, they're looking forward to the trip. It's a trip that takes just over a fortnight. It will be of vast interest to them, and I'm sure that they will be fine ambassadors for Australia and for music.
At the Hunter Immunology Unit at the Royal Newcastle Hospital, this week has been extra busy. Last year, the average number of antibody tests carried out each month at the lab was 250. In just the first 8 days of this month, the lab has tested 150. Immunologist Dr. Alan Cripps says that only a small percentage of tests return positive.
It's about 2%, and that's been fairly constant for both 1985 and 86. And that's a little lower than our comparable units established in Sydney.
Dr. David Sutherland heads the AIDS unit at the Royal. He explains the 3 categories of AIDS.
Well, just the positive test, that gives you the category C, which is an antibody. Those people feel perfectly well, but sometime later, maybe half of them will go on to the next stage up the escalator, if you like, the category B, where they get unwell with their lymph glands up and fevers and weight loss. And then a few years on, some of those go up to the top, and those people have what's called full-blown or category A AIDS.
Not everyone who is diagnosed with Category C AIDS goes on to be a Category A patient, but there has been an alarming increase in the number who do.
Is that correct?
We used to say only maybe 10, 15%. People are being a little more pessimistic now, and figures of 40 and 50% are being suggested.
There's been a unit especially for AIDS patients here since July last year. How many people have you had go through?
Well, if you include through the clinics, we would have seen more than 80 people with the antibody, or about 35 with the in-between, the B stage, and we've had 5 people with Category A AIDS.
Have they died?
4 of them have.
At first, only gays and IV drug users were being killed by AIDS. But now we know every one of us could be devastated by it.
The current AIDS campaign carries 2 messages. Prevention is the only cure, and no one is immune to the disease. More people out of the traditional at-risk groups, intravenous drug users and homosexuals, are becoming worried. The message is, if you have doubts about sex partners you've had in the last 5 years, it's best to have an AIDS test. And that test is very simple. Blood is taken in the normal manner. It can be done by a general practitioner, at a medical clinic, at a hospital or private pathologist. Now that my blood's taken, it will be tested at a lab here at the Royal Newcastle Hospital. It'll be 12 to 14 days before I get my results. And if I'm in the overwhelming majority, it will show negative. That is, no AIDS antibodies. If there are AIDS antibodies in your blood, your sample will turn yellow after testing. In this batch, 5 individuals had positive results.
They're not
All positive results are retested a number of times. If the positive result is repeated, the patient is diagnosed with Category C AIDS. New blood tests are taken to see if the virus has begun to attack the cells in your blood which protect your body from infection and disease. Sympathetic health and counselling services then come into play to guide positive antibody-diagnosed patients. All tests are completely anonymous. Every patient is given a code. Only their doctor can match the code to their name. And all AIDS testing is completely free of cost.
Orchestra is playing host to one of the world's violin masters. International artist Nelly Skolnikova, who defected from Russia in 1982, was today rehearsing with the orchestra for a concert on Friday at the university's Great Hall. It's an excellent opportunity for Newcastle musicians to play with someone of her calibre. She's been praised around the world for her mastery, filigree technique and clarity. It's particularly her renditions of Tchaikovsky's Violin Concerto which have won her acclaim, and these works will be performed on Friday night. For Newcastle FM's new chairman, Bruce Steggles, and executive director, Mike Webb, it was champagne all round today after they heard that they had been awarded the new commercial FM licence. According to Mike Webb, a major shareholder who some years ago worked as an announcer for 2NX, the success is the culmination of 5 years of hard work. He says they've not chosen a location yet, but hope to broadcast from the inner city. They like the Triple M concept of the announcer working to a panoramic view of the city, rather than being shut up inside a booth with nothing but 4 walls to look at. Newcastle FM plans to target the general age group of around 18 to 35-year-olds. They will mostly be playing modern contemporary popular music and don't plan to have jazz or classical. Although it's unclear just how different the format of Newcastle FM will be to the existing commercial stations, certainly the superior sound is likely to make it popular. Mike says they hope to be on the air early next year.
My experience leads me to believe it will take about 8 or 9 months to build the radio station and be ready to actually turn it on. So if we look 8 or 9 months ahead and imagine what the best date would be, I can't imagine a better one than, for example, New Year's Day next year. People of Newcastle will wake up to a brand new year and a brand new radio station, NEWFM.
David Wharton was arrested by Raymond Terrace detectives at his Saltash home at about 7:45 a.m. They had been wanting to talk to him for about 34 hours about an alleged incident at a marijuana plantation at Saltash on Wednesday afternoon. During this incident, it's alleged that a 30-year-old Tanilba Bay man was tortured after he had helped himself to some of the plants. Police interviewed Wharton for more than 7 hours before charging him. At 3:45, a special sitting of Raymond Terrace Court was held before Magistrate John Power. Wharton appeared on a number of charges, including assault and kidnapping. Detective Neville Greenaway told the court that bail should be refused because of the serious nature of the offences and because the accused lived quite close to the victim. Magistrate Power refused bail and the matter was adjourned for mention on April 16.
Mr. Shultz left Washington with a large entourage of advisers, security men and reporters. The 170-strong party filled 2 planes, an indication of just how significant it's hoped the talks will be. However, the negotiations will take place amidst further claims of espionage in both Washington and Moscow.
The discussion takes place in an environment, a difficult environment generated by their actions, and these things cast a heavy shadow on our discussions.
Meanwhile, Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev has cut short his visit to Czechoslovakia by a day to prepare for the talks with Mr. Shultz, who is due in Moscow tomorrow. Pope John Paul II wrapped up his 2-week visit to South America this weekend with a series of open-air masses in Argentina. Controversy has continued to follow the pontiff in this overwhelmingly Catholic country. A bomb exploded about 2 kilometres from the scene of today's ceremonies. There were no immediate reports of injuries. The Pope also launched a blistering attack against divorce, although Argentina is on the verge of legalising it. His visit was highlighted by many memorable images. An awkward moment with the soldier's horse, this giant rosary lifted by balloons as a symbol of peace, and his delight upon learning a baby had been born during a mass at Kokaman.
Maitland Station was packed as spectators and travellers jostled for a prime view of the old locomotive. Star of the festival was the 3801, remembered by many veterans heading to Newcastle rail commuters as the first Newcastle flyer. History was created yesterday when the 202-ton locomotive raced against a Tiger Moth from Waratah to Maitland. The locomotive was trailed by 8 carriages, with all seats filled by steam enthusiasts and children, enjoying what was for them a rare experience. In the sky, the Tiger Moth entertained with a number of classic dives and rolls as it kept pace with the puffing engine below. But at the finishing line, it was the 3801 in front by a whisker. Hunter Valley Steamfest was a highlight of the statewide Heritage Week celebration. This is the second year it's been held, and the huge crowd proved a continuing interest in steam locomotives, pointing toward a strong future for the festival.
Made in good sportsmanship tradition.
The Evensong ceremony commemorated the role of the armed forces in both peace and war. Members of each of the services paraded their ceremonial flag before presenting it to the Dean of Newcastle, the Very Reverend Lawrence. The flags remained draped over the altar throughout the service. Ex-servicemen and women joined with members of today's forces in the congregation. The service came at the end of a day of rallies and marches to promote peace and commemorate those who have died in battle. In the morning, the Newcastle branch of the Rats of Tobruk marched in memory of the 600 Australian soldiers who did not return. A larger march wended its way from Pacific Park to Civic Park to promote the message of nuclear disarmament. Many people, young and old, spent Palm Sunday enjoying the sunshine in Civic Park, taking in the message brought to them by local activists and the National President of the Scientists Against Nuclear Arms, Dr. John Hunter. Campaigners concentrated on promoting Australian actions which might break the international nuclear chain. In league circles, Kurri Kurri is the town reputed to have produced more internationals than any other in Australia. But that form was missing from Saturday's first grade match against South Newcastle. South's win was built on the efforts of front rower Adrian Revere, prop Paul Hill and hooker Richard Jones. Peter Parr out wide scored 2 of his team's tries, contributing to South's so far undefeated run through the NBN Newcastle Herald League Premiership competition.
The Elderly Citizen Centre is located underneath the Council's King Street car park. It serves more than 400 hot midday meals a week to senior citizens for just $1.50. It's a popular lunch spot for the elderly looking for more than a meal. It's a meeting place, offering a real social outlet. But now the centre's future is looking shaky after 30 years of operation. The volunteer cook, 64-year-old Rose Terry, has been told by her doctor to give up work. She'll probably resign at the end of the month because of poor health. The Pensioners Advisory Service has taken up the call and is lobbying council for a full-time paid cook, saying it's a reasonable request to make of any council with a genuine social conscience.
So I don't think that it's too expensive when you're talking about pensioners who have been paying their rates anywhere up to 50 years.
The job entails meal planning, the ordering of food and then organising volunteers to help cook and serve. Many of those who regularly use the service help out with the wiping up as well. Lord Mayor Alderman John McNaughton has refused to discuss the possibility of appointing someone to a paid position, suggesting another volunteer should be found.
I think that we've got to get past that position where we're calling on volunteers all the time. I think that the council need a coordinator. I think they've got to get their act right, and they don't tend to be doing this at the moment.
So what would your advice be to council?
Successful.
The Premier announced the funding prior to a state cabinet meeting in Cessnock.
Programs. It involves tripartite activity. The major employers such as BHP, Ganninans, Carrington Slipway, they'll join together with the Trades Hall Council and the government, and will be able to jointly identify areas of new activity, identify new projects, new processes which will have a beneficial effect on employment.
A key function of the project will be the development of an economic model which will allow job and business planning. It will aim to strengthen existing skills and resources rather than attract other forms of industry to the area. A similar project has been run on the south coast. It's concentrated on new product development and will supplement its funding soon from royalties. The Hunter Region project will spend more than half its budget on wages, office space and computers. At a press conference at Trades Hall this afternoon, details of the scheme were discussed. At first glance, the new organisation looks set to duplicate the work of existing government-funded bodies, such as the Hunter Development Board.
There's something in this for everyone, and it targets the whole thing so that you really get activities that you generate from yourself. It's a tool for the region. It's not duplicating anything in the region, it's not threatening any group in the region. It's actually allowing them to focus all their efforts on a particular target.
Despite being dubbed a job creation program, spokesmen at today's conference were unwilling to put a figure on the number of new jobs the project would create.
Falcon was travelling north along Marconi Road at Morisset when it attempted to overtake another vehicle. Eyewitnesses say the late model laser travelling south appeared over the crest of the hill and moved to the left lane to avoid the impact. At the same time, the Falcon returned to its lane and the two met head-on. The driver of the laser was taken to the Royal Newcastle Hospital by the Westpac Rescue helicopter with back and shoulder injuries. Her passenger suffered lacerations to her face and legs. The driver of the Falcon was released from his vehicle by the rescue squad and was suffering from chest and back injuries. All are now in the Royal Newcastle Hospital in a stable condition. Cottage in Mayfield has been operating since late 1984. It provides a home and